want to talk about what happens when we raise the bar on who we allow into our life. This year I have really chosen to prioritize myself, my mission, my vision, what I'm here to do in the world, and that for me has meant stepping back from relationships. And it's because I'm going through an internal up-leveling process. I am actively practicing becoming the version of me that can actively follow through with these visions, this mission, this purpose. It has meant that I am in like an incubated change time. I've been doing a lot of personal development. I've been reading a lot, learning a lot, expanding a lot, learning a lot of new skills, really up-leveling who I am. And when we change in that kind of a way, everything around us has to change too. If we stay within the container that we were in before we up-leveled, we're gonna fall back into who we were before. Like the environment has to change with us. So my physical environment has to change. I've had to make updates to the house that I live in. I've had to make updates to what does my day-to-day life look like? What are my routines? What are the practices that I bring into my reality? What am I listening to? What am I consuming? And that's where relationships have come in, because relationships are part of our external environment. There's some quote that I've heard, I don't remember who said it, I don't even know if I can quote it accurately, but it's something along the lines of, we become or we're most like the people that we spend the most time with. So if we have somebody in our life who is not representing that version of ourselves that we want to be, and we're spending a lot of time in those spaces with those people, again, that's like the same as not changing our physical environment when we're doing all the internal work to change. Like both have to happen simultaneously. Can't just be the inside, can't just be the outside. It has to be both. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I have carried a lot of shame throughout my life with the struggles I have in forming relationships and making friends in particular. You know, we're all beautiful, unique humans. I myself am a very unique human. I don't often find people who are similar to myself, especially, you know, I've chosen to live in the Midwest. I've chosen to live in a slightly more rural area. So the pickings are just gonna be thinner. I don't meet very many people, especially where I live, that I have a lot in common with, especially on like the deeper levels that are really what I need in a relationship. And so that's always been true. I'm from the Midwest, and I had a really hard time growing up, not even understanding why it was so hard for me to make friends, not even understanding that I was different, like internalizing it as like something being wrong with me. I'm broken, people just don't like me. It took me a long time to understand the reality that I'm just a unique, rare person, and it's hard to make friends when you're in an environment where there's not that many of those kinds of people around. I don't fit into normative spaces. I don't enjoy doing things that normative culture, consumer culture prescribes to us. Like, that's not how I connect. That's not what I'm looking for. That's never how I've been. And so I want to talk about this because I want to support myself and maybe some of you in continuing to reduce and bring down that shame. Because it has been challenging for me this year as I've like really raised the bar in who I am and what am I interested in and available for out in the broader world. What does my environment need to be, including like the types of people that I'm spending space with, including, you know, the types of environments that I'm socializing in. As I've raised that bar, there are fewer and fewer spaces where I can access. Like there are fewer and fewer spaces where I can do things like form friendships. And so I'm at a place right now where like I don't really have that. And that's hard. Like it is hard to be, I think a lot of us are lonely. You know, I've also been more lonely in spaces where I've been surrounded by people than I have when I've been like legitimately by myself. So, you know, loneliness can look a lot of different ways for a lot of different spaces, but it has been hard to, when it's already challenging for me to make these kinds of relationships, it has been hard for me to raise that bar even higher and like have even less availability for like anything that's not a true match, because it's meant that there are like very few options. It's meant that I'm in a situation right now where I don't really feel like I have friends where I live. And so like the loneliness is one thing. Like that's real. I understand why it's happening. I'm in a transitional time period. I'm not yet the version of myself I'm becoming. So I'm not yet like a total match for the people that I will be eventually a match for. Like, I'm still in this process of becoming. I'm like the gooey stage of the caterpillar still a little bit. So I know that there's like a future version of me who is going to be able to better find people that I'm in resonance with, because I'm going to be more in resonance with who I'm becoming. Right now I'm in the in-between, so I'm no longer fitting into where I fit in before, and I'm not quite a match for where I want to fit in, like where I'm aiming for. I'm in this murky in-between space. And so I can like understand that and have empathy and allow myself to feel the feelings and the sadness and the grief and like the isolation that can come with loneliness. But what I don't want, and the reason why I want to share this with all of you, is because like I really want us to reduce shame around this. Like, I carried so much shame throughout my life for this feeling of like, I don't have friends, what's wrong with me? There's something wrong with me, I'm broken, this is bad, like I'm bad. And that's not what the situation is. Like, that's not what the situation is for me. That's probably not what the situation is for you. If you're resonating with this, like if you're in your own transformational process, if you're in that in-between space, like there's nothing wrong with you. It's not shameful to struggle to find the kind of connection we're looking for. We live in a culture where connection is so superficial. Like, that's what we're spoon-fed, is to look for superficial level connection. That's what's so prominently available to us. And so when we're no longer fed and satiated by superficial level connection, finding the real stuff is harder. And it's a pathway, and it's a journey, and it's a process, and there's like transitional time periods. So I don't want to feel shame. I don't want you to feel shame. Let's talk about the reality of the challenge and the struggle that there can be to make friends and to form community in a consumeristic, capitalistic, colonialistic, cultural environment. Because it's real and we deserve more. And, you know, I think there's a lot of us who are on this path of like raising our bar and seeking out to find more. So, you know, we just have to find one another. We just have to continue on our process and let ourselves change and get to that version of ourselves that we know we're turning into, and like come together and create more of these spaces. That's what I care about. So let's destigmatize not having friends. Sometimes that happens in a season, and that's okay.